Here we are. We're halfway through 2016 now in Lachie's weekly footy roundup. We going to be doing the results for round 11, for ladder after round 11, and we're going to predict round 12 as the bye period will be coming up soon. Friday night footy. North Melbourne versus Richmond at Bluntstone Arena. What was that for a Friday night game? The Kangaroos by 70 points. Oh man, Richmond, I think Richmond must have missed the flight or something. As we all remembered before the game, Coach Brad Scott pulled out in the last minute because he missed his flight. Or something happened to him. Assistant coach Darren Crocker stepped up that night and... Night, Mum. Night, Mum. I was just recording. Anyways, back to the game. Assistant coach Darren Crocker would step up in his place at North Melbourne and would help the boys win by 70 points. Anyways, back to the statistics. Well, Daniel Wells is back. 29 disposals, 7 tackles and 3 goals. Pretty much back to his best. Another great game from Nick Del Santo. 33 disposals, 21 of them are handballs, 8 tackles and a goal. Richmond's best player was Trent Cotchin with 34 disposals, 7 clearances and no impact on the scoreboard. Got multiple goal kickers in this game. Boomer Harvey kicked 4 for North Melbourne. Well, he certainly does love playing in Tasmania. Daniel Wells with 3. Mason Wood with 2. Same with Lindsay Thomas. Richmond's only multiple goal kickers were Ty Vickery and Jack Rewalt. North Melbourne, they're pretty much looking primed to make the finals right now. As for Richmond, well, they've pretty much given up on making finals. I think they're kind of getting ready to book an end of season holiday. Hawthorn and Melbourne at the MCG. What a game. What a win by Hawthorn. 18-point winners over Melbourne. Unfortunately, Jack Gunston had pulled an injury that game. Best player for Melbourne was Bernie Vitz. 36 disposals and 4 tackles, 11 clearances. He kind of got a bit involved in a Twitter feud with Joe Ingles of the Utah Jazz, who was a massive Hawthorn supporter. Hawthorn's best player was Sam Mitchell with 27 disposals and 7 tackles. Now moving on to the goal kickers. Jack Gunston with 3 for the Hawks. And 2 goals to Tim O'Brien and Luke Bruce. However, Jack Watts and Dean Kent kicked 2 goals. Hawthorn's debutant Kate Stewart, a.k.a. Chad Wingard's lookalike, had 16 disposals and a goal. In what seems to be a successful first game for the Hawks. Now, across the road, Carlton and Brisbane at Etihad Stadium. How poor was Brisbane? Them and Carlton were literally in the same wooden spoon race the previous year. And now Carlton are pulling away. They're 5 wins ahead. Although Tom Rockcliffe had a great game for Brisbane. 48 disposals, 13 tackles and a goal. 184 points in fantasy. Of course it was a losing side. Sam Kerridge with 30 disposals, 16 marks and a goal. Ed Curnow, 28 disposals, 12 tackles and a goal. Multiple goal kickers. Jed Lamb, Dennis Arfield and Matthew Wright combined for 8 goals. Add Paddy Cripps, it was 10 goals combined. Brisbane's only multiple goal kicker was Daniel Rich, kicking 2. Next game. For the Giants at the Cattery against Geelong. Well, get used to it, Geelong. This win at the Cattery will be one of your last wins at the Cattery against the Giants. Oh boy, GWS are coming. They're gonna win 10 in a row at the Cattery at this stage. I reckon 2019 will start the streak. Now for the, well, 3 Giants impressed in this game. 28 and 3 goals for Whitfield. 22 disposals and a goal for Cullen Ward with 9 tackles. Dylan Shield, 32 disposals and a goal. But Geelong's best player was 29 and a goal and 7 tackles from Joel Selwood. Moving on to the multiple goal kickers. Lachie Whitfield with 3 goals and Toby Green for the Giants. Daniel Menzel kicked 3 for the Cats. Tom Scully with 2 for GWS. Cam Guthrie, Tom Hawkins and Shane Kirsten with 2 goals each. Would beat Geelong to a 10-point win. Gold Coast versus Sydney at the Metricon Stadium quagmire. Swads got up by 38 points. Theon Prestia had a great game in this sort of weather. 39 disposals and 11 tackles. Sydney's best player was Tom Mitchell with 33 disposals and 14 tackles and a goal. I think he's putting himself on the market for Victorian clubs. The only multiple goal kickers to report are Gary Rowan and Luke Parker from Sydney. I think that's about it to report for this game, really. Fremantle versus Essendon at Subiaco Oval. Am I seeing things? No, it's not Donald Trump winning another primary. Fremantle actually won a game this season. This is not a drill. Fremantle have actually won. Tanking? What tanking for Fremantle? David Mundy had a great game, 33 in the goal. Lachie Neale's 42 disposals and a goal. We might put him in Brownlow conversation in the future. While Michael Barlow's starting to kind of get back to his best. 26 disposals and a goal. Let's check out the multiple goal kickers. Michael Walters, Matthew Pavlich, Chris Mayne, and Hayden Ballantyne combined for 11 goals for the Dockers. The only multiple goal kicker for the Bombers is Joe Danaher with 2 goals. Is that it to report really for Essendon? Sunday footy. Collingwood versus Port. Feels like an MCG in the quagmire of the MCG. This Collingwood team has got too many passengers on board. Port Adelaide by 67 points. Well, Scott Pendlebury was Collingwood's best player with 30 disposals and a goal. He's been carrying all these passengers. Aaron Young, 24 disposals and 4 goals. What a game from him. Speaking of goal kickers, Jake Need also kicked 4 for the Power. Chad Wingard with 3. The Collingwood still side bottom kicked 2. So did Mason. So too did the big Mason Cox. Any goals to report in this game for Travis Cloak? Well, he's been reported missing. 1 behind. Well, it sounds like Collingwood basically might be putting him on the market. And find a new team. Maybe someone like Carlton might suit him. Western Bulldogs versus West Coast at Etihad Stadium. 8-point win for the Dogs. Well, Lachie Hunter had a great game for the Dogs. 38 disposals, 11 marks, 6 tackles and a goal. Jack McRae with 33 disposals for the Dogs. And 7 tackles did his bit. Marcus Bontempelli, 30 disposals and 9 tackles. West Coast best player on the ground was Manny Prentice. 27 disposals, 12 tackles, 9 clearances. Goal kickers, Tom Liberatore kicked 3 for the Dogs. Jake Stringer, Jack Redpath, and Tom Campbell who kicked 2. For West Coast, Elliot Yeo, Mark Lacroix, Jack Darling, and kicked 2 goals. I'm not going to mention that number 33's name, otherwise I'll get cancelled. Anyways, next game, Crows and Kilda at Adelaide Oval. Adelaide by 88 points. Adelaide in great form right now. Josh Jenkins, 24 disposals, 13 marks and 7 goals. Rory Sloan with 32 disposals, 8 tackles and a goal. Sauce Jacobs, 24 disposals, 27 hitouts and a goal. Matt Crouch with 36 disposals and 2 points. Jake Lever had an impressive game in defence. 30 disposals, 13 marks. So did Talia with 26 and 17 marks. Tex with 21 disposals, 10 marks and 3 goals. St Kilda's best player, of course, was Jack Stephen with 31 disposals and 4 tackles and 4 clearances. The other multiple goal kicker was Charlie Cameron, kicking 2 for the Crows. St Kilda's only multiple goal kicker was Josh Bruce with 2 goals. That's about it really to report. The ladder. The top 3 remain unchanged from last week. Western Bulldogs and Hawthorn have gone up the ladder. Dogs are now in 4th. Hawks are now 5th. GWS and West Coast have slipped to 6th and 7th. Oh no. I think I started off something 10 years in the future. Adelaide are in 8th still. Port Adelaide and Carlton have rose up the ladder. Port are now 9th. Blues are 10th. But Melbourne are sliding to 11th. 12th and 15th see no change in the positions. Fremantle will go up to 16th after they got a win. Brisbane and Essendon have gone down the ladder. The Lions are 17th now. 18th is Essendon. Now we move on to round 12. Essendon versus Hawthorn at Etihad Stadium. This game's not worth watching. Why put that game on Friday night with Essendon having half their squad suspended? And they're in poor form. Probably better off having it on Sunday. No comment, really. I reckon the Hawks will win. By any margin, really. Port. Now we move on. Cut that. Anyone, now we move on to a better game. Port Adelaide versus the Western Bulldogs at Adelaide Oval. I reckon the Dogs will get it done by a point. Brisbane and Freo at the Gabba. I reckon the Dockers will win that game by about 70 points. Geelong and North Melbourne at Etihad Stadium. It's the battle of the Scott brothers. I reckon Chris will get the job done. He hasn't beaten Brad since 2014. I reckon Chris is due for revenge. I reckon Geelong by 40 points. West Coast versus Adelaide at Subiaco Oval. It's at West Coast home fortress. Sorry, Adelaide. I'm sorry, Crows fans. I know they're my team, but I'm not confident about this one. I reckon West Coast will win by 2 points. Sunday footy, St Kilda and Carlton at Etihad. St Kilda by 4 goals. Richmond and Gold Coast at the MCG. I reckon the Tigers will get the job done by 2 points. Sydney Derby at Spotless Stadium. I reckon the Giants will get up in this second derby of the season by 25 points. Round 3 was the last time they met. Melbourne and Collingwood at the MCG for Big Freeze 2. Last time the two sides met was 8 weeks ago in round 4. Now they're back again for round 12. And I reckon Melbourne will once again get it done by 20 points. Anyways, we now move on to round 13 in this next episode. And that's the first of the bye weeks.